Okay. We're holding on page, Bezat Hashem. See over here. All right, page 73. So, Baruch Hashem, we're holding in volume 21. We are on page 73, and we're starting a new topic. We saw some of this topic already before, but today, Bezat Hashem, we're going to look at the malacha of milabein, which is literally translated into making it white. Okay, which is cleaning, laundering. Okay, so we're going to see that cleaning garments may even involve shaking off dirt or pouring water, letting the garment get wet. All of these may be considered the malacha of milabein. Let's start in source number 1 on page 73, which is a Mishnah. It's a Mishnah, Masechet Shabbat. You remember this Mishnah. This Mishnah is the Mishnah that lists all the melachot. That all the 39 melachot is listed in this Mishnah. So the Mishnah says, Hagozez et hatzemer, someone who shears wool, cuts off the wool from the animal. And hamlabeno, someone who whitens it, bahamnafetzo, and one who combs it. These are all separate melachot of the 39 melachot. What is malbeno? What is whitening it? Says Rashi there in Masechet Shabbat, mechabeso benahar. He is laundering it in the river. This is considered the malacha of milabein. The Rambam in source number 3 tells us that although the malacha in the Mishkan was done for wool, right? It was in order to make the wool white. Hamechabes bigodim, but if someone washes clothing, harehu toldat milabein b'chayev. This is now a tolda of milabein. So you have the actual malacha in the Mishkan was done on wool, and the Rambam says if you wash clothing, this is a tolda of milabein, and he'll be chayav. Right? Tolda and av both considered right. In the Orchot Shabbat, he goes ahead and he expands a little bit more about this malacha. Milabein etzemer, someone who whitens wool, who echad milametet avot melacha. The pu'ulat halibun he kibus hatzemer hagulami. This is taking raw wool and washing it. Before they cut off the wool, already dirt went onto the wool. So this cleaning takes off this dirt from the wool. Hamechabes begodim who told us. So that's the malacha in the Mishkan was on temer, was on wool. But hamechabes begodim who told us shemelechet melabein. This is a tolda of the malacha of milabein. The hayav hatat and the chayav hatat veluchein. Any work that you do, kibois or hastarat kesamim mehabeged, or taking away a stain from a beged, asura mishum aleches milabein. It's also because of the malacha of milabein. So you have here. So we're going to see what is and what isn't. Today we're dealing with liquid, but yeah, from what he's saying over here, is anything that you do to launder or to remove stains from a beged will be a tolda of milacha. Rabbi Nachshon in his sefer also gives a nice introduction to this malacha, and he writes over here, just adding a couple of parts. He adds on as follows. There are actually going to be 3 parts. There are 3 parts to washing clothing. It has always been 3 parts of washing clothing. Today's washing machine does the same thing they did for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years. To clean clothing is 3 steps. What's the first step in your washing machine? What does it do?
Water.
It soaks. All right. That is step one. And that's going to be considered laundering also. Okay. For Shabbat, we're going to see in cases of clothing, just soaking them is already considered laundering. So the first part is soaking. What's the second part of the wash cycle? You agitate it. All right. You got to move it around. You got to get the stains out by agitating it. And then what's the final part of the all right, wringing out. Active laundering.
The old fashioned?
Yeah,
It's the same thing in your washing machine. You know, when your washing machine starts going, and you feel like the floor is shaking and the ceiling is shaking, whatever way you have it, right?
My machine don't have your nigga.
It doesn't have your name. That's the Temanini one. Okay, so you have three steps of laundering, and those three steps are going to be considered a tolda of milaben, and to be over the malacha milaben, you don't have to wash a whole garment, even a partial garment or a small area. All of it could be considered the malacha of milaben. So now we're going to define the first part, the soaking. We're going to see how much of the malacha is soaking. I'm just putting water on it. So
Wait, are you talking about before Shabbat or
on Shabbat? We're talking about on Shabbat. I'm talking about on Shabbat. Let's take a look.
If I put my clothes before Shabbat and it's washing on Shabbat.
We're not talking about leaving your machine on from before Shabbat. This is something else. We're now talking about
you put water
on Shabbat. Let's take a look in the Mishnah. Mishnah on source 5, page 75. Okay, so the first part we already saw from the Hilchot Amukseh. That we say what? Ma'ot, Sha'al Hakar. If you have money on coins that are on top of a cushion, Mina'er et Hakar, Vehenofelet. You shake the cushion, right? You pick it up and you let it fall. This is Tiltul Min Atzad. And you let the coins fall, and that's okay. Says the Mishnah further, Hayta alav lishleshet. If there was on top of it filth, right, on top of the cushion, lishleshet. Filth. I'm telling you, dirt. Lishleshet. That's the way they say. It's a Mishnah and Shabbat. Okay.
A word that you're saying.
Yes, lishleshet. This is filth. If a cushion has filth on it, okay, what does it say? Mekanecha bis martut. He can use a rag to wipe it. Okay, can use a rag to wipe it.
Right.
A rag, a cloth rag, right? He can use a cloth rag to wipe it. So here he has filth on top of the cushion. He can use a cloth to wipe it with a rag. Okay, that's what the Mishnah says. Now, you want the Nikudot for it?
No, I just want to show the Mishnah.
Okay.
What the Mishnah says?
That's what.
It's on Kuf Mimbet, Amud Bet. No, that is Mishnah. You see the way he put it, Mishnah.
Yeah.
But the Rashi is based on the Mishnah, and the Rashi is in the Gemara. So Kuf Mimbet, Amud Bet. Okay, so now listen to the Rashi is the key over here. Rashi is the key in explaining this malacha. The Mishnah said you can use a rag. Mekanecha bismartut. Says Rashi, v'lo yiten alei amayim. But you're not allowed to put water on top of that spot.
Dry on dry.
Right. You cannot put water on that spot. The stam kar shel begedhu, because most cushions are made of material. Ubeged. And when it comes to a beged, when it comes to material, sheriato b'mayim hu kebuso. Soaking it in water is already considered laundering it. So says Rashi, this is the key to understand this whole next part. Says Rashi, garments, a beged, fabric, material, soaking it in water is already considered kebuso. It's considered laundering. And where does it come from?
إذا بعور كان.
We're talking about or. Don't talk. Don't look at the leather yet. We're not up to there yet. We're gonna get to or. We're gonna get to or.
رجع تاني.
We're only up to material right now. You have to take it step by step. If you're gonna jump around, you're gonna be.
كتب لي فلوكت. انشقتي كتب على ذا معور متاح.
I know we're not up to or yet.
Okay.
We have to, why by or mutter? We have to get to it. Let's take a look now. Where does Rashi get this? That Sharia b'mayim hu kevuso, that just soaking it is already considered laundry. Where does he get this from? It's a Gemara in Masechet Zvachim, source number 7. Gemara in Masechet Zvachim tells us a beged Sharia zehu kevuso, that putting it in water is already considered laundering it. So that's where Rashi is getting it from. And he's telling you that the same halacha applies by Hilchot Shabbat, that just putting a clothing into water is going to be considered laundering it. And everything will be very fine and simple and dandy if that was it. And these are the Gemarot. And it says if you go into water with a baguette, you take the baguette, put it into water, that's it. It's considered laundering, and it's the malacha of Milabah, you're not allowed to do it on Shabbat. But it would never be that simple. So there's a Gemara in Masechet Yuma. The Gemara in Masechet Yuma tells us, Tanu Rabbanon, there's a mitzvah on Yom Tov and Shabbat, especially on Yom Tov, to go visit your Rabbeim, to go visit the Gedolim, go visit your father and your mother. So the guy wants to go. And on his way to visit his Rebbe or to his father, he has to pass through water. He can go through the river, and he can come out, and there's nothing to worry about. 1 second. How could the guy forget about squeezing out the clothing afterwards? Right now, our issue is laundering. How could you take water? You said that soaking a cloth is laundry. And now all of a sudden you're telling me I can go on Yom Kippur, by the way. This case is here about Yom Kippur. You're allowed to go into the water across the river to go visit your parent. What about laundering the clothing?
Mine is not the laundry.
But Rashi told us, he said, Shariato is kibuso. So now, make even matters more interesting. There's a Gemara, Masechet Be'ah. Gemara Masechet Be'ah, the Beitza tells us, in Yechet Amud Aleph, tells us, Damar Rav Chia Bar Ashi Amar Rav, Nida she'ein lo begodim, a nida, right? Today we're not used to toiveling begodim. Not something that we do. But in the days of Tumah v'Tahara, they would toivel a beged. So this woman's a nida. And she's going to become tahar on Yom Tov. So she can go into the mikvah to be mitahir. But she doesn't have clothing. Any tardik clothing. So what's the eitzah? So me'aremet, she can make an aroma, she can make a trick, so to speak. V'tovelet b'vigdeha, and she could go into the mayim with her clothing. So she's not toveling clothing, she's toveling herself with the clothing on. Obviously the clothing has to be loose, so it wouldn't be considered a chatzitza, but she can go in with the clothing into the water, and it seems to be fine. But you just, yeah. And you just told me on Shabbat, soaking clothing is considered laundering. And here you're telling us an eitzah for this woman is to go into the mikvah with her clothing. And this is she will mitzvah her clothing as well. She's a nida. And she doesn't have any taradik clothing. All her clothing is tamar. Yeah, but she's going to go to the mikvah, she come tar. Then what clothing is she going to put on? Or her clothing's already tameh. So the trick is go in with your clothing. Obviously the clothing is loose, so it's not a chatzitz to the skin. And she'll come out with clothing, and she'll have tardika clothing. So, but you see here, you can go in with clothing. So how could you tell me, Rashi, based on the Gemara Masechus Zvachim, that soaking clothing is considered laundering? When you're telling me I can go in Yom Kippur into the water, I can go in on Yom Tov and Shabbat into the water with. So which one is it? Is it or is it not? So Tosefot. Why is it scary?
to examine them, that's all for nothing, for nothing. Yeah. No, no, no. There is not, there is male. Clothing is oh, that's the time that they just had. This is okay.
I don't know because I'm not sure if they always had a mikveh attendant. I really don't know the historical. I don't know the historical context of that. I would assume in the days of Tumah v'Tahara, when people this actually affected their lives, they knew exactly how to search and do what they needed to do. I don't think they had attendants there. I don't know. I don't know for sure. But in my mind, now that you brought it up, I don't know the historical context of when there was a what the Balanit in the mikvah always there checking. I think this was more of in my mind, I'm thinking it's more of a later invention when people were not so rogil in Tumah v'Tahara, and now they're going in, and it's a d'oraisa if they don't do the actual tefillah correctly, so you got someone checking there. Okay, but that's actually an interesting idea to go back and search historically when that became, if that was always the case or not. Okay, so now we have to have a hesper, we have to have an explanation. Why sometimes you say putting clothing into water, begging the clothing considered laundry, and sometimes you say you can go into it. Why? Why is it one way? Why is it always going to be two answers in the Tosafot? The first answer is from the Ri, the second answer is from the Rabbeinu Tam. Each answer is slightly different, and we'll have nafkaminas. We'll have differences in halacha, which one we go with, and we'll see what we hold of actually. So let's take a look at this Tosafot. We're in source number 10. It's Tosfot, it's Shabbat Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Bet. The Imtamar, and if you're going to say, Heichi Shari Hosam Lichanes Bevigdeya, how does Masechet Beitza tell us that a woman can go into the mikvah with her clothing on? Nay, Moshe said, Shriatozo Kibiso. Right? Shriatozo Kibiso, Kedarim Zvachim, the Perik Dam Chatat, like we saw in Daf Tzadik Down Zvachim. So how could you let it go? How can you let it go into clothing into the mikvah? Oh, so says the Ri, this is the answer of the Ri, the Yeshloimar, the Dafka, when you have a tipat dam or tinuf, you have already the clothing being dirty, and then you add water to it, do we say that soaking it is laundry? So the Ri says, you have to look at what the state of the clothing was beforehand. When we're talking about Masechah Zvachim, Rashi Masechah Shabbat, talking about the clothing is dirty. And so I'm putting it into water. Just putting it in water is already considered laundry because the clothing is dirty. But the case in the Gemara in Masechah Yoma and the Gemara in Masechah Beitzah that says you can go with the clothing, guess what? The clothing wasn't dirty. It was a clean clothing. So therefore, putting it into water is not considered laundry. It's only considered laundry, says the Ri, is when the clothing was dirty. So that's the way the Ri is mechalik between the Gemaras that seem you can put the clothing into water and Gemaras that say you can't. The Gemara says you cannot put it in. There, the clothing was dirty. So when you're putting it into water, it's laundry. The Gemara say that you could put it in. That's talking about a clean clothing. That's why it's not laundry. That's the Ri. And then the Taisha says, Umatzari. And now the Ri found Mukbah Sefer HaYashar. He found the Sefer HaYashar, which was the Sefer of Rabbeinu Tam, where he writes that the difference is somewhat differently. It's how are you using the clothing? How are you using it? Wiping, and is the water dirty? Let's take a look. The Lord Amar Shayatoze Kibuso, Bedavar She'enu Ki Im Lichluch. We don't say it's soaking is considered cleaning in something which is merely filth, right? When we're saying that it's considered cleaning, soaking it, it's when you're putting it into water that can clean it, right? But if you're putting it into water that's not to clean it, then that's not considered laundry. Kimoy sipog, such as preserving with the towel or wiping one's hands with the cloth. Here you go. I'm using a towel. I wash my hands, right? And then I have to wipe it on the towel. That's part of before I make the bracha. I say the bracha. Then I have to wipe it. I can't touch the bread yet. If water going on clothing is already considered laundry, how do I ever get to be able to wash my hands on clothing? So says the Rabbeinu Tam, it depends. Laundry, then it's laundry. If the water is not a laundry water, then it's not laundry. So the Gemara that says you can't put the beged into the water. Which water is that? Clean water. It's water that's meant to clean with. So therefore you can't put it into the water. It's considered laundry. The Gemara that says you can go to the Rebbe on Shabbat and Yom Tov, right? And you can go through the river. You don't use that river water to do laundry with. You don't walk into clothing in the river to do laundry with. And the Gemara that said that you can go to the mikvah with the clothing on to tie the clothing, that's not how you do laundry. It's already a clean clothing. When you're going into the water, you're making it not clean now in those waters. But you understand the difference? Re is looking at the clothing. Rabbeinu Tam is looking at what the final thing is. What are you doing in the end? But you understand where he's coming from. So take a look at this box over here. Take a look at this box on page 77. He's now going to tell you a difference between the Re and the Rabbeinu Tam. It says this: if the fabric is not dirty at all, it's a clean beged. According to the Re, if it's a clean beged, I can put it into water. There is no milabin here. There is no laundry here because it's a clean beged. What am I cleaning? He's looking at the beged. But Rabbeinu Tam would say, what type of water is it? If it's clean water, right? So then it's still laundry. That what?
You're going into that water,
right?
You're going to be retired yourself.
You're retiring it. But what happens to the clothing itself?
I'm assuming you're going into water which is good.
They didn't have mikvahs like you have today, where they're all filtered and there's chlorine and all those other things in there.
But if you put it in such a water, that means that it's clean water.
No, it's clean to retire the person. Let me ask you something. I have clothing, right? I have good clothing. If I go into a swimming pool with my good clothing, is that considered cleaning? Like, am I doing laundry with that clothing?
No.
No. Okay, so same idea. Same idea. She has a good pair of clothing. Her clothing is good. It's clean clothing. She's going to the mikvah to retire the clothing, but the fact that now she's going into a natural body, a river, or whatever it is, where that's the mikvah that they have, it's going to get ruined. Somewhat. Not so much significant to that degree, but so Rabbeinu Tam says that's enough to say it's not milabin. Because I'm not coming to clean it. Right? The second case in the box is when the garment is dirty. So it's a dirty garment. According to the Re, right? Even in a liquid which is not truly clean, I can't put it in. Because I look at the garment. If the garment is dirty, any water that goes on it, it's going to consider milabin. But Rabbeinu Tam would say what? It really depends on the water. What is the water doing? Right? Is the water cleaning the beged? Or is the water not cleaning the beged? What's happening in the end? What's happening to the beged in the end? So that's the difference between the Re and the Rabbeinu Tam of how they view these cases of the Gemara. So the Bir Halacha says, let's take a look. He says over here, take a look at page source 11. But when there is dirt upon it, then even soaking it in a way that dirties it, such as drying hands, should be forbidden according to the opinion of the Re. Remember, the Re looks at the beged. The beged's dirty. Putting water on it makes it, in the case of milabin, even if you're using somewhat of dirty water, because it's dirty. He's looking at the beged, not the water. The beged's dirty. Putting water on it is considered milabin. So his question is, Bir Halacha, how do you get to use a towel? How do you get to use a towel? It's a dirty beged. People already used it beforehand. I'm making it more wet. So isn't it milabin according to the Re? So says the Bir Halacha, he's saying it maybe When I'm using the towel, right, it's more about dirt than anything else. You can't really say it's melabin when the usage of it is to use and ruin the towel. So you cannot say that is considered, oh, it's a dirty baguette, so I'm adding water, it's considered melabin. No. Because in that case, even the Re would maybe agree and say, yes, it's a dirty garment. Yes, adding water is usually a problem. But in this case, the derech is to ruin the towel by wiping your hands on it. So therefore, it's not considered melabin. What does the Shulchan Aruch hold? Take a look at source number 12. Shulchan Aruch writes, if you have a beged that has dirt upon it, it's forbidden to dip it into water. This is considered laundering it. So says Shulchan Aruch, if you have a beged that's dirty, you cannot soak it into water on Shabbat, because that's going to be considered laundering it. Whose opinion this seems to be? The Re. That's what the Re said. Dirty garment, right? You have a beged that is dirty. Also, you're not allowed to even dip it into water, because it's considered laundering it. So it seems to be that the Shulchan Aruch is going with the Re and not Rabbeinu Tam. Is looking at the beged. Is the beged dirty or clean? Right? Not the water. Not the end usage, of the beged that become cleaner or dirtier, right? What did the water do to it? Now here he writes the Magen Avraham in the box on the bottom of page 77. Magen Avraham understands the Shulchan Aruch goes in accordance to the opinion of the Re, because he specifies a woman not wet a garment which has dirt upon it. That means if it's clean, it should be okay to put it into water. That's what according to Shulchan Aruch seems to be. And there's another Shulchan Aruch. He doesn't quote it over here. We take a look at note number 6. And I looked inside today to see the Shulchan Aruch inside. This is a case about a beged went on fire. You're not allowed to put out a fire on Shabbat. Right? So the beged went on fire. The question now is, can I put the other side of the beged, if I make it wet, the fire didn't get there yet. Can I make the other side of the beged wet, so the time the fire gets there, the fire will be extinguished. So I'm not extinguishing the fire, making the beged wet, and then the fire will be extinguished via the side that's wet. Question is, the Shulchan Aruch says, chutz min mayim. You can use all types of liquids to do this, except for water. Okay, and then it says no, even water. So two shitot. He brings two shitot there. Either you can use water or not water. According to the opinion that you can't use water to extinguish a fire on the other side of the beged, why can't you use water? And what type of beged are we talking about? The Shulchan Aruch never says it's a clean or dirty beged. So someone is saying, talking about a clean beged. And the Shulchan Aruch, according to one shita, says, according to the first opinion that he brings down, he says you can't put water on it. Why can't you put water on it? It's a clean beged. According to what the Re says, and which we think the Shulchan Aruch is saying over here in Shin Bet, Siman Shin Bet, then it should be allowed. He said only dirty you're not allowed to put water on. If it's clean, you should be allowed. So why over there he says maybe you cannot put it on when it's clean? Someone said that maybe really Shulchan Aruch also holds like Rabbeinu Tam. And Rabbeinu Tam says it's not the beged dirty or clean, but it's the water. It's the end result. And so if I'm putting this water that is going to clean it, it's clear water, and it's going to clean the beged somewhat. It's going to make it cleaner to some degree. So therefore, it would be also. So perhaps the Shulchan Aruch holds like that. Perhaps Shulchan Aruch holds like that. What? In what? In the fire burn? So use any other liquid, he says. Use orange juice, soda, I don't know, whatever's not considered water, to that extent. In the end, I think the other is you can use the water. He actually, Shulchan Aruch himself actually writes that it makes more sense to say you can even use the water. So he writes in that siman, and that's it. Right, but there is an idea. The Shulchan Aruch seems to in his first opinion there, Shulchan Aruch seems to say you can't put water on a clean beged. So the Tosfot Shabbat, the Tosefet Shabbat, and the Gra both argue on top of page 78 that the Shulchan Aruch doesn't accept the Re, and it's only a problem if it's a dirty beged. He actually might hold like the Rabbeinu Tam. So someone is saying the Shulchan Aruch holds like the Rabbeinu Tam, and even a clean baguette, putting clean water on it will be a problem on Shabbat, not just for dirty a baguette. Even a clean baguette, clean water would be a problem. Take a look at the Ramah. The Ramah says, "Uveged she'eino lav lichloch." So if you have a baguette which is not dirty, mutar l'tita lav mayim or atim. You're allowed to put a small amount of water on the baguette. If it's a clean baguette, you go ahead and put a little amount of water. Why? Because you have the re, right? The re only says the problem is if it's dirty. The baguette is not dirty. The baguette is clean. There's no problem putting water on it. It's not considered laundry. Why does it say mu'atim? Why does it say small amount of water? Because our issue with the lot amount of water is what? You're going to come to schita, you're going to come to wringing it out. So you want to come to the issue of wringing it out. So he says to put a little bit of water. Then says the Ramah, v'yesh osrim b'chol inyan. And there are those who say it is osir in all the times to put water on the baguette, whether the baguette is dirty or whether the baguette is clean. Some say it's always asur, says the Ramah.
What's the Ramah saying?
I have a clean baguette. I wonder if I can put some water on it. Say, why is he putting water on it? What's the toilet? What's the?
Maybe he wants to cool down.
This is actually in Shin Bet, so it's not about the fire now. Okay, yeah, maybe he wants to cool down, right? Maybe he wants to cool down, right? That's a good idea. We're going to see shortly.
It doesn't say cool down.
We're going to see shortly. I'll give you a few cases where it is. You'll give me to source 16. Is that the Shem? Source 15, 16 over there. I'll look in the laws and the Shabbat. I'll read to you some stuff. Okay, let's take a look in source 14 now. The Bir Halacha wants to say as follows. He says the truth is that the first position, the Shita of the Ri, is the correct position. The correct Shita, says the Bir Halacha, is like the Ri. At the only time it's an Isser of laundering on Shabbat if it's a dirty garment. If it's a clean garment, it's not a problem. But then he writes, Umikol Malkum, Kivan sheyesh kama rishonim shemachmirim bezeh, v'chein hu adat hatur b'simin shin yutet b'simin shemin lam dalid lefi mashi biru haBeit Yosef, the way the Beit Yosef explains the Tur, that there are those who hold rishonim that hold that it is like Rabbeinu Tam. Therefore, you should be machmer and don't put on even clean clothing. Even though it seems to be the halacha, we hold like the Ri. And the issue is only when it's a dirty garment, and putting water on that is the issue. And a clean garment, it's not. But there are those Rishonim that hold it even on a clean garment. And since it's a Isser Deoraita, says the Bir Halacha, be careful and don't even put water on a clean garment.
But
yeah.
When you say clean and dirty,
yeah,
it's meaning to say clean and dirty is you say salad clothing, or you consider it white.
And that there's no dirt, right? Dirt garment, dirt. Okay. Dirt, anything that is not clean, not a clean bag. Okay, take a look in source 15, the Bir Halacha. What are we dealing with here? We're dealing with here. The guy's got a tablecloth. Okay, he's got a tablecloth on top of the table, and now some water spilled on the tablecloth. I want to clean that water. I want to now take off the water from the tablecloth. So as I'm moving the water, it's moving from one spot to the other on the tablecloth, right? So I'm sort of putting water on the tablecloth. So is that considered laundering?
Tablecloth is plastic? What kind of tablecloth?
I'm talking about tablecloth. Yes, clothing, baguette, made out of fabric. Correct.
If it's clean, no problem.
I have water on the table, on the fabric tablecloth. Okay, moving it around now. I want to get it off. Can I move it off? This is the question. So says the Bir Halacha, near the be'et tzarich, ein lahachmer. You don't have to be necessary. It's not necessary to be machmer when it's a shat tzarich. Shaloi b'koach, but make sure you're not doing it with koach. Why not doing it with koach? Because now you're not just soaking it, You're not just doing schita, you're also doing the actual act, the agitation. You're doing the agitating. The whole issue here is about soaking it. Okay, so one part of the tablecloth is soaked, one part's not. If I move the water, I'm going to soak the other part of the thing. But if I do it with koach and I go like this, now I'm agitating it. Right? That's another part of the laundry. It's another issue. Right? So that you can't do. But you can drag it without agitating it. And you can move it off. The dator of a poiskim, the beged, she'en by lichluch. If you have a clean tablecloth, you have a clean beged, aloy amrinan, shariyoto kibuso. The gam she'en mit kaven lechabes. So when you, according to the strict halacha, a beged that's clean cannot be considered doing laundry to it by just soaking it. Agitation is another problem, but soaking it, clean beged is not considered doing laundry. And so it would be okay to drag the water from one part of the tablecloth to the other. Here the Alkut Yosef brings up another halacha before we go into the next one. With a knife, with anything.
Your hand.
Move with your hand. It shouldn't be like this. It should be shloivakoyach. Drag it. If you want to shake it off either that way, it's even better. You get less problems. Interestingly, he brings a halacha here as follows.
You could use another cloth.
Yeah, you can use a rag. You have to be careful how you doing it, right? Shouldn't be and the other rag should be a clean rag, right? It should be a clean thing, because otherwise,
that's why he's using also.
unless it's something that's it's okay to get dirty, like a towel or something. But look at this halacha he brings over here. He writes as follows. Some poskim ruled that on Shabbat one should avoid pouring a beverage into a glass over a tablecloth spread on the table, for a fear that some of the liquid might spill onto the cloth, and that would be an act of laundering. Instead, one should place a saucer under the glass so that no liquid will spill onto the tablecloth. All right, you have here Yakut Yosef. He's saying some poskim. Let's say who? Yeshomrim.
Probably the white.
He says, technically, however, it's permitted to pour beverage on the tablecloth, since if any liquid spills, it would be an act of soiling the tablecloth and not of cleaning it. Right? If I'm spilling something, some of my drinks onto the tablecloth, I'm not doing any cleaning. In fact, I'm making it stain. Right? And there's no issur of staining it. The issur is of cleaning it. Okay, so that was interesting halacha I wanted to bring out over here. But just as we did the halacha before, here, it's forbidden to soak a garment in water on Shabbat. The act of soaking a garment is considered a full-fledged act of milaving, laundering. Technically, this is the rule only if the garment is dirty or stained, but it's permissible to soak a clean garment in small quantity of water. Anyone who refrains from soaking even a clean garment in a quantity of water, in any quantity of water, will receive a special blessing from heaven. That's the case we have over here in source 16. Right? Also, shel beged b'toch mayim b'Shabbat, the shiriyato shel beged b'mayim zeh kibuso, v'chol zeh kishiyesh lichloch le'ezeh tinuf al beged. Aval mabeged noki mikadin muter l'shirato b'Shabbat b'mayim mu'atim. Delo amrini b'zeh shiriyato zeh kibuso, v'amach mishol l'shirot b'mayim afilu mu'atim gam beged noki tavo alav beracha. Okay, so we said we're going to bring some cases where we would want to make a clean garment wet. When would be some cases like this? So here in the laws of Shabbat, he actually brings some interesting cases. Listen to this. Okay. Let's say a woman is using a bedika cloth, and the cloth is very rough, right? So she may soften the clean cloth by wetting it a little bit and letting it dry, so it's not wet, right? So it's not going to do schita when she's going to be pushing it against her skin. And therefore, you'll be allowed to make it a little bit wet. So that would be a case where I have a clean fabric that I would want to make it wet. The Menuchat Ahava says, I have a clean towel or a clean rag. I want to make it a little bit wet in order to clean the table with it. That would be permitted. The rag is already dirty, then it may not be wetted. What'd you say? Okay, another similar example, Chazon Avadia says, someone's wiping himself, he's got tissues, and tissues is not doing the job, and he needs to put a little bit of water on the tissue. So he can put a little bit of water on this clean tissue. Okay, he has to use it very lightly so he doesn't come to do the squeezing, right? But he can add water to the tissue, to that amount that won't be considered squeezing. Says the Or Tzion, like Tzion was saying before, that he can have a beged. You want to make it a little bit wet to put on your forehead to cool you down. It's hot outside, whatever it is, and you want to cool down. You have a clean beged, so technically you're allowed to make it wet. You're allowed to go ahead and put it on your body. That's not a problem because me'ikar hadin, the issue is by a dirty beged, putting water on it. By a clean beged, there is no issue of putting water on it, but don't do it, and you'll get a bracha unless in cases of need. Okay, so that's on that. The Mishnah Berurah writes, what about, this is the case, using a towel. What happens when I use a towel? My hands are wet. The towel is what? Driver, what's the towel? Is it clean or dirty? When you start Shabbat, later on, it stays clean.
Yeah, with the water that you're doing.
It gets dirty eventually.
Just water.
It's still getting dirty. I don't know. I know, for me, for example, if you're taking a hand towel and say everyone wash their hands, right? And I wouldn't want to use it on my face, right? I would consider it dirty.
Do it on your hands.
To that extent. Okay, your hands are less.
So it's dirty. Clean,
right. So the question now is, I wash my hands, and I'm using this towel. This towel is not clean. To some degree, it's lichluch, right? Some degree, it's considered.
If you don't see it, if you don't see it, it's not lichluch.
Why not?
Because you're Denise, okay.
Not this. Am I the only person who sees it this way?
Nobody else has an issue with it. What?
Yeah. First of all, I'll tell you even more. Most people are washing their hands from the Netilat Yadayim. They don't necessarily wash their hands with soap beforehand. Just washing with water doesn't get everything off. So now you've washed your hands, and now you wiped it on the towel. Take dirt and put it on the towel. All sorts of things. And your towel doesn't just time the part. Even if you say that's not true, okay, it's off. The towel doesn't just touch the of your hand where it's been washed with water. It comes here, it goes there, and then the towel falls on the floor. It picks it up, put it back, this and that. The Maisa, at the end of the day, the towel is not considered clean. All right, so I showed you many ways how a towel is not considered clean. So now if I'm wiping my hands on it, I'm putting water and I'm putting it where? On a dirty bagging. So wouldn't it be an issue for the dirty bagging? So let's take a look. But I'm adding water to it. So right, soaking doesn't necessarily mean only soaking it into the water. It's adding water to it. Putting water to that spot is a problem.
Based on what you said, it's not adding, it's really adding filth.
Very good. Very good. So that's what the Mishnah Berurah says. That when we say soaking them is laundering, when we say shariato zekubusan, this when there's no dirt upon it, therefore all kinds of reasons to it. Nonetheless, if it's applying water to the garment, is done. Here, we call makam im netinat mayim ala beged hu derech lichloch shari. Even according to the if I'm adding water to the garment, but the garments, and when I'm adding the water, I'm dirtying the garments, and that would be okay. So my hands, after washing, is still considered somewhat dirty, as I'm wiping away the filth on the towel, so then it's not considered laundry at all. And even in that case, according to the you would be okay to wipe your hands on the towel. In fact, the Shulchan Aruch tells us a very interesting halakha. Turn to page 80, Abutai. Page 80, the Shulchan Aruch, on source 18. It's best that someone washes his hand to dry them vigorously bekoach zu bezu, v'laster mehem mamayim, as much as he could. Kodem what? Shikanehim b'mapeh, before he wipes it on the towel. Why does Shulchan Aruch want you to get rid of all the water from your hands before you wipe it on the towel? Because the would say adding water to a towel is problem. So get rid of as much water as you can. So this way, there's less water, less of a problem. It's not going to be considered laundering to that case.
Yeah, he says, shub is one thing, but he says more to get out as much water as possible to make it dry. Shipshuf is right, it's part of the Nefila. It says more as much as possible.
Right, to really try to get all the water off. So says the Ramah, we're not worried about this. The loyam reading Shariat Beged Zeu Kibuso B'chi Haygavna, the Ein Zeh, again, look at the Ramah, the Ein Zeh Rak Derech Lichluch, and therefore it's not a problem. Says the Ramah, I understand Shulchan Aruch, you want to have less water on your hand when you're doing it, but the truth is, it's not a problem. Because when you're wiping your hands on a towel, it's considered Derech Lichluch. You're getting the towel dirty via that way. So that'll be okay. Interestingly, the Shulchan Aruch Harav, look in the box, writes that if there's no loss whatsoever, one should try to comply with the Shulchan Aruch. Try to make your hands least wet before drying them. Take a look outside for a moment in the Yalkut Yosef. He writes as follows: even if someone washes his entire body in cold water on Shabbat, it's recommended that he waits a few moments for the water on his body to drip off and then dry himself. Because you don't want to put water on the towel, right? Because you're going to consider it laundering. But then he writes, truth is, it's not considered laundering. It's considered what's it called, dirtying it. Because when I use a towel for my body, I end up dirtying it. Even though I just showered, the towel is considered getting dirty every time I use it. That's why after a few uses, you're going to change it, right? It doesn't stay clean forever. The towel gets dirt with usage, even though you're clean. Okay? Same thing with hand towels.
So it's better
again,
to
it's
wear a
permissible
raincoat,
to
no?
use it right away. It's not considered laundering because that's his derech to use lichuk. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so it's better to wear a raincoat outside if it's raining outside. So then we're, some people are
What
like
better
heroes.
than
They don't care
what?
about the rain. Not to
Better
wet the
than what?
clothes. Based on this Shulchan Aruch, if it's raining, drizzling outside, even drizzling,
Yeah.
it's better to put a raincoat.
So
No,
I would
not
say
to
two
get all
things.
these spots
I would
wet over there.
say it's better to wear a raincoat. Stamazoi. You don't want to get wet outside. It's not good. B, the rain is not going to be considered laundering because no one really does laundry with rainwater. All right, rainwater is not what you use to make laundry. So rain going into clothing not going to be considered in laundry in that sense. But it's still a very good idea to use a raincoat. That's a stamazoi to always use a raincoat if one has one. Today, Baruch Hashem, they make the raincoats. I don't have this one, but I used to have it. Then it got lost in somewhere. No. Everyone's raincoat looks the same in the shul, so sometimes your raincoats tend to disappear in the shuls. So the raincoats, they have the one with the hat space. You have the big one. They have the strimal space in the raincoat. The shane coat. Okay, that's what it's called. Shane coat. Fine. All right. Fine. One more. Piskei Teshuvot writes, while washing one's face, one's hands, and washing dishes and the like in a permissible manner, one should be cautious not to wet the edges of the sleeves and not to spray water on one's clothes or on towel. You should be careful when using water on your hands and your face that it doesn't glow on the clothing. Because although we say it's okay, in the end of the day, it's clean clothing and it's not considered cleaning it, but it's best to, like, to hold both of the Ri and the Rabbeinu Tam. Okay, we have one more section I would like to get through today. And we lost Rabbi Shevach over here. But this is really coming to the part that he saw in the next part of the Mishnah, which was, the Mishnah says, go back to source 20 over here, page 81, source 20. Haytashel, or if the cushion, remember we're talking about the Mishnah, talking about the cushion, right, the pillow. If the cushion was made out of water, notenin aleya mayim, you can pour water onto it until it gets cleared, until the filth is gone. So if on leather there was filth, I can go ahead and apply water to it. And says Rashi in source 21, if filth was upon a cushion or leather, which is not subject to laundering, right? The lav bar kibosu, you don't launder leather. That's not what you do. Natan aleya mayim, you can put on it water until it's cleared. Umiu kibus mamish loy. You can put it into water, but you can't agitate it. You can't do the shaking up of the leather, but you can put water on top of it because it's not derech of washing by putting leather into water or putting water onto leather.
The dirt goes on the shoe.
You can't rub it with the water, from what I'm understanding. Women actually do the actual laundering. You can pour water on it, but you can't use the water in an agitating cycle.
If it's liquidy, then you can put water and it'll run through.
That's exactly what he's saying.
Like, that hard.
Right? So we'll have to see that.
Then
We'll have to see that.
don't want to agitate.
Since typical cushions and blankets are soft, laundering does not apply in the cases of soft leather. However, soaking them does not constitute laundering them. Shariatan lo zehu kibusan. It's not considered laundering them. So soaking them or putting water onto leather is not considered. Now, why is that? Why is putting water onto leather not considered laundering it? The Achrayim writes, leather does not absorb water easily. A beged absorbs water. Water goes on it and it sinks into it. Okay? And leather, it doesn't do that. It's only through rubbing that water goes into the leather and extracts the dirt. In order for it to use, when it comes to a beged, the minute I put water on it, it's already starting to clean. When it comes to leather, putting water on it does nothing to it. You have to actually agitate it with the water in order for it to do something. So therefore, that's why you're allowed to pour water on leather on Shabbat. It's not considered soaking it, that's considered laundering it. So take a look at the Shulchan Aruch. Says the Shulchan Aruch, source 22, Mutar liten mayim al gabe manel l'shachshachai. You're allowed to apply wet water to a leather shoe in order to rinse it. But to launder it, the Hainish Mishav Shev Taduzel Zeh, which means one scrubs it side and side once again another, also. When it comes to the Shulchan Aruch, I have a leather shoe, no problem. I can put water on it. I can rinse it out with water. It's not considered laundry, but I can rub it. Once I start rubbing it, then that's going to be a problem. Rubbing it with the water. Now we're talking about putting water and then rubbing it with the water to get it out. That's not going to be allowed. That is going to be considered laundering.
So it sounds like you're taking the leather and
Taking two shoes, rubbing one shoe with the other shoe. Right. Yes, that's the problem. That's the problem. That would be considered laundering it. Says Rabbi Yashiv. Right. So that's why you're allowed to put water on it. It's not, you're rinsing it. You're rinsing it. Sometimes, for example, you get a little dirt on it. You're walking out and there's the mud, this and that. You put your shoe into a puddle of water. What happens? Most of it comes off. And all the stuff when it comes off. That seems to be not a problem. Problem would do is to rub it. So the Dirshu edition, the Mishnah Berurah, brings Yashiv as follows. What about if it's not water, but it's a solution that's a cleaning agent? Okay, some liquids are meant to clean the item. So if I use a cleaning solution, can I put the leather in that, or can I drop that onto leather? Because you're telling me that Kavuso is agitating, that's the problem. What about if I don't need to agitate it, but the liquid itself can do it? He says, soaking. So he says soaking in water with bleach has the status of laundering. Since it's an agent, it's the solution itself is a cleaning agent. The only time they said soaking is not a problem is actual water. But if you have a solution that cleans, then that's going to be a problem, says Rabbi Yashiv. Now, what about our shoes and stuff like that? Now, that if there are pieces of leather sewn with threads, right? A lot of the shoes, they sew them together. They use what's the threads made out of? Well, okay, let's say they're not nylon for a second. Let's say they're actually made of real fabrics. Let's not use plastic for now. Okay, so linen is a fabric. No? You're using threads. Therefore, one may not soak leather shoes which are sewn with threads. When we said you're allowed to wash the shoe with water, that's when it's truly a leather shoe. But if your leather shoe has on it threads and fabrics in them, then you can't do it. The same is true of the pieces made of fabric. It's forbidden to soak them. And then again, he says about the cleansing agent. If you have a water that's actually a cleaning agent, you're not allowed to soak it either, because that's actually doing laundry. What about soaking sheets of plastic or nylon in water? Okay, this is what they're talking about before. So I have here this. I have the plastic tablecloth. Okay, I have this plastic tablecloth. And they're not subject to any prohibition of soaking because they do not absorb water. Says the Shabbat, no problem, because they don't absorb water. Everyone should not scrub the plastic in water with one's hands, because then you're doing what? You're doing kibbutz, you're doing agitating it. That you're not allowed to do. I can put water on my plastic tablecloth, not a problem, but I can't agitate it. But if the plastic sheets are sewn with threads, sometimes at the edges, some of the fancier plastic tablecloths, they have threads over here, right? So if I want to pour water onto this tablecloth that has threads on it, then I can't do it because there's fabric there. So I can't pour it there. He writes as follows. He's very, very makel over here. Take a look on source 25. Nylon, when it comes to nylon, which is plastic, right? Lo shayach bo klal kibus. There is no such thing as laundry by plastic. Laundry applies by begodim. It applies by fabric. It applies by clothing, right? You can launder a tablecloth. You can launder clothing. You don't launder plastic, says Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul. Vehu kekli. Plastic is like wood. She'ein behem kibus klal. I can go ahead and pour water and agitate my what's it called? My wood furniture all day. Yeah, no problem. I can get the dirt off my plates. I can agitate them with a kosher sponge on Shabbat. Because it's not a din of beged. There is no kibbutz there. He says plastic is the same thing. According to Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul, if it's truly nylon with no fabrics in there, there's no such thing as laundry on them. Obviously, nylon jackets could be laundered, no? And then you have a machine wash or stuff like that. So then his raya would throw out, right? Because you could wash it. He's saying there is no, hey, shemem kibbutz klal. And they're allowed to even agitate it. Kimo kosot, ha'osim in plastic, as if you make cups from plastic. Are you allowed to wash them on Shabbat? There's no problem, because they're a keli, not a beged. So Chacham Ben Zion wants to look at nylon as being a non-beged. It's a keli. And if it's a keli, you do whatever you want with water. You can wash it. You can agitate it. Not considered a keli according to Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul. The Igot Moshe, he took a different approach. He writes, regarding plastic tablecloths, you don't know what the halacha is. Why? Because plastic wasn't existed when the time the Talmud was created, when the time when the Chacham put this halachot into practice. When they set the gezerot of what the halacha is and how it is, there was no plastic. So says Moshe Feinstein, I don't know what to tell you. Right? It's hard to tell you what the halacha is. Therefore, he writes, don't forcibly scrub them. Right? Don't scrub them side to side. Just cleaning gently with water, letting some water go on it, and gently cleaning plastic, that will be fine, says Moshe Feinstein. But scrubbing it hard, he says, since I don't know what the halacha is, because it wasn't recorded in the time of the Talmud, the plastic, I would say, not to do it. In the Yalkut Yosef, on page 55, outside of the Tzurba, he writes over here, listen to this. Ram, you're going to like this one. Vinyl tablecloth, a baby's rubber pants that contain no natural fiber, or a plastic mattress cover, so there's no fabric there, may be soaked in water on Shabbat if it is needed. One may also pour water on them if they're needed on Shabbat. But one should not rub their parts against one another. Nor may one scrub them with one's hands or cloth. So it seems that Yalkut Yosef is going to Moshe Feinstein. Really, we don't know what the thing about plastic is, but you can put water, you can gently clean it, but don't do it scrubbing style. He said the same thing. the rubber nipple of a baby bottle, right? You're allowed to clean it by soaking it in water or by pouring water over it. But one may not ever rub the sides of the nipple against one another. Normally, one scrub it with one's hands or with any tool while it's still wet. So the Yalkut Yosef, Yitzchak Yosef takes the opinion like Rav Moshe Feinstein, plastic, you can get it wet, you can gently clean it, you can't scrub it. Interesting, Rabbi Nachshon, in his sefer over here, he writes a little bit different. One may wash the dirt from the plastic table on Shabbat and even scrub the stains while doing so. Who is he going according to? Chacham ben Zion Abba Shaul, who says plastic is not a beged, right? It's a kli, and you're allowed to scrub it, you're allowed to do anything you want with it because it's not a beged, it's a kli. So you have here a big you have here machloket poskim, Chacham ben Zion Abba Shaul and the Yalkut Yosef. How do you view plastic? Is plastic a beged? And if it's a beged, what type of beged is it absorbent or not? Is it considered like leather? You can get it wet, you can slightly clean it, but you can't scrub it. That's Rosh Feinstein, Yalkut Yosef. And then you have the other side, Chacham ben Zion Abba Shaul, Rabbi Nachshon, that say that what? Plastic is wood. You can put water, you can scrub it, you can do anything you want with it. It's not considered clothing. Okay? Continuing a little bit further over here, the Penina Halacha tells us, source page 83, source 27, wooden furnishing, plastic items which do not absorb dirt, may be cleansed with water to remove dirt that is stuck to them. So wood, furniture, stuff like this, you can put water on them. It's not considered laundry at all. And again, leather, rubber, plastic, or non-absorbent materials are not subject to the issue of soaking them with water. But you're not allowed to scrub them. You're not allowed to scrub leather in order to clean it. We already saw this, okay? There's no malavan issue of cleaning dishes or wooden table on Shabbat, but even by scrubbing. It's permitted to clean a plastic chair in the same manner. Not considered beged. It's considered kalim. And it would be okay to clean them, even roughly, according to Chacham ben Zion Abba Shaul. What about the human body? Is there any malacha of milavin of the new human body? No, it's not applied by human body. One may scrub one's hands, even with soap. One may remove a stain on one's skin on Shabbat. One may also wet his hair that is attached to his body on Shabbat. It's not considered milavin. All right. What about soaking and laundering synthetic items? So this is what we're talking about: plastic and other things. We saw the Yalkut Yosef says you can soak it, but you can't rub it hard. But take a look at source 30 on page 84. Regarding a garment woven from synthetic thread. So your story about the jacket made out of nylon says that Rochot Shabbat ner sheyesh ba isur sharia. It seems to be forbidden to soak it. So the Rochot Shabbat takes a strong approach, and he says usur to soak synthetic materials. Yeah. Synthetic materials should be considered material, considered fabric. Right, not the flat ones. Right, absorbable. And he explains why. The reason is the weaving is very tight. And thus it stands the reason the dirt in the fabric is considered absorbed. And soaking it cleans it. He says the mamish, in the end of the day, a fabric that's made of synthetic materials acts like a fabric. Synthetic fabric acts like fabric. Therefore, it should be usher. Now, comes the last case we'll look at, as we're going to start that shortly. The last case is contact lenses. Contact lenses is plastic. You have hard contact lenses and soft contact lenses. Hard contact lenses is not a problem. Why? Because it's hard plastic. It definitely doesn't absorb, right, Rami? But soft contact lenses is somewhat absorbable. And what do you have to do with contact lenses? If they're reusable, you got to soak them. So can I soak contact lens on Shabbat? If plastic is considered somewhat of a garment, can I go ahead and soak it? So hard ones, again, no problem. Soft ones may be a problem. And to make matters worse, the solution is meant to clean it. It's not just regular water. It's a cleansing solution. But take a look at the last piece, Abotai, on 34 and 35. Source 34 and 35 on page 86. One may clean contact lenses both hard and soft. This is law is more lenient in case of contact lenses compared to nylon, which may only be lightly scrubbed, because not only are they non-absorbent, they're not considered clothing, and therefore scrubbing them does not resemble kibbutz. Says the Penina Halacha, Contact lenses is not a beged. It's an implement. It's a tool. Now look, this is Ha'ara in source 35, that the absorption in the soft contact lens is not considered absorption at all. For according to what we can see, there's no absorption there. In the case of contact lens, there's no reason to relate to something which is not at all discernible. Moreover, the primary function of cleansing is to disinfect it. All what I want to do with the contact lens is disinfect it. I'm not wanting to clean the whole thing and launder it. I want to disinfect it. In addition, it's not considered a garment. It's considered a tool to see. And therefore, it would be permissible to, put the contact lens into the solution. As Rabbi Nachshon writes, one may place contact lens in solution on Shabbat to clean and hydrate them. It doesn't make a difference if they're soft or hard. It would be okay because it's not a beged, but a kli, but a vessel, something that's used as an
Rabbi
implement.
Moshe, 2 questions on the chat, brother.
2 questions on the chat. Let's take a look. Question number 1. What about a spritz with a cleanser? I'm not sure what that means. What about a spritz with a cleanser? You're saying to spray a cleanser on a plastic tablecloth. So I want to use water from a spritz onto a cleanser, onto the tablecloth to clean it. So I'm putting the water through the spray. You mean a spritz? You mean a spray? What about a spray with a cleanser? The solution is a cleaning solution like Windex. Be a problem. If it's stam water, then it wouldn't be a problem. Okay, fine. We'll end over here. We have Minyan, Motai?